exact reports and combine them into one conclusive report to be sent on to the security police office and the senior officer in the police and the SS. This report was drawn up for Berlin as well. Part of my assignment was the pre-notice about the trains about to leave, as well as the confirmation in regard to the arrival of those trains. This too was my function.
Dass ich befehlsgemäß den Kontakt mit dem Staatssekretär Endre und Seltner mit Buckley zu unterhalten hatte. Auch dazu hatte ich die Weisungen. Damit aber erschöpfen sich meine Tätigkeiten in Ungarn.
I forgot to say before that it was also my duty to keep continuous contact with the Secretary of State Endre and with Agaffi. I had instructions to do so, and this really concluded my tasks in Hungary.
This contact with Endre was designed to determine the details about the deportations of Jews from Hungary.
Nein, bei Endre brauchte ich nichts festzulegen, sondern bei Endre brauchte ich nur in Erfahrung zu bringen, was er seiner Gendarmerie befohlen hat. Denn danach wiederum war ich befehlsgemäß verhalten der Reichsbahndirektion.
You saw Baki every day, didn't you? Every single day. That's exaggerated, but you said so on page 22. Interpreter's correction, it should have been the contact with Endre, not with Baki.
No, all I had to do was to find out what he ordered his Hungarian gendarmerie. I had to bring it to the right authorities. And then, no, this is an exaggeration. If we say almost every day, asks Mr. Hausner, will that be in order?
Das wird ziemlich genau sein. Oftmals mag es eine Woche gegeben haben, wo ich jeden Tag bei ihm gewesen bin. Oftmals bin ich eine ganze Woche nicht bei ihm gewesen. Endre war der Chef der ungarischen Gendarmerie gewissermaßen gewesen.
What was Endre's task? He was in charge of deporting the Jews to Auschwitz, wasn't he?
Ungarischerseits, jawohl, mit dem Innenminister.
And you said on page 922, I was in Lassig Endre's company every single day. Daily I had contact with him.
Das habe ich ja eben,
The accused answers.
das habe ich ja eben erklärt, was unter fast täglich zu verstehen ist. Beispielsweise war ich oft 8 Tage und länger überhaupt nicht in Budapest gewesen, sondern privat habe ich mich irgendwo zurückgezogen gehabt. Da kann ich zum Beispiel nie bei Endre gewesen sein. Also wortwörtlich ist dieser Ausspruch nicht zu nehmen, auf keinen Fall.
Daily, every day, that would be an exaggeration. At times, for a whole week, I would see Endre daily, but at times I did not see Endre for the whole week. Endre was, in a way, head of the Hungarian gendarmerie. In regard to deportations to Auschwitz on the Hungarian part, yes, and that's the name of the Ministry of the Interior. This is what I meant, and this is what I said before when I said almost daily. For instance, at times I was away, I was not in Budapest for a whole week, so that I could not see Andre daily. This should not be taken literally.
diciamo che
עשיתי את זה.
922. כי הייתי הלא כמעט יום יחד עם להציג אנדרה.
חשבתי פה עוד חצי שעה שכל אחד מאיתנו יסבול אותו רק חצי שעה.
והשתתפת בישיבה ביום 25 למאי 44.
And you took part in a meeting on the 25th of May 1944 with Baki. Who was Baki?
Baki war auch ein Staatssekretär gewesen, genau wie Endre.
The accused, Baki was also a state secretary, like Endre. Both of them were in charge of the gendarmerie. How they divided this between themselves, I do not know.
ולשניהם הייתה כפופה הז'נדרמריה, אולם כיצד זה חולק בדיוק, זאת לא אוכל לומר.
ובאותה פגישה של 25
Mr. Hausner, and on that meeting on the 25th of May, you set down all the details for the concentration of the Jews and their deportation from the various parts of the country, right? This was in Baki's office.
Wenngleich ich mich nicht entsinnen kann, so habe ich es gelesen und muss sagen, das ist durchaus möglich, denn das waren die Grundlage gewesen für die Fahrplanangelegenheiten.
So the reply is yes, in other words, or possibly so.
Though I can't remember quite clearly, I have to point out that there is a possibility that this was the case, because these were actually the principles for the establishment of the train departure charts.
Here is where the president of the court put his question, and the accused replied, Javol. Mr. Hausner, so you did have representatives in the various parts of the country. Could you remember who these representatives were and where they were posted? And if you do not choose to call them representatives, call them what you will.
Wer die Namen im Einzelnen waren, weiß ich nicht. Noch viel weniger weiß ich die Orte, wo sie tätig gewesen sind. Ich weiß, dass Wisliceni draußen war. Ich glaube auch, dass Abromeit draußen gewesen ist. Auch Hunsche wird sicherlich mal rausgefahren sein. Mehr wie 3-4 werden nie draußen gewesen sein. Soldi unterstand mir ja nicht. Den habe ich nicht zu dirigieren gehabt. Der hat mit der ungarischen Gendarmerie gearbeitet. Der Mann ist auch personalmäßig nicht geführt worden von mir.
I cannot possibly remember all the names and not the places to which my representatives were detailed, but I believe Wisliceni, Abromeit and Hunce were sent to various districts of Hungary. I didn't have more than 3 or 4 representatives.
How about Soldi?
Soldi was not my subordinate. He was appointed by the Hungarian Gendarmerie. He hadn't been registered in my office.
Isn't it true that he was a Gestapo man and that he wore the uniform of the Gestapo and was assigned to you by way of a loan?
Das weiß ich nicht. Ich sehe diesen Mann nur noch in ungarischer Hauptmannuniform. Was anderes weiß ich nicht.
I do not know. I see this man in Hungarian uniform, in the uniform of Hungarian Gendarmerie.
Did he never wear Gestapo uniform?
Denn im Anfang, als ich gefragt wurde, war mir der Name überhaupt unbekannt. Und dann fiel mir ein, ja, es war mal vorübergehend ein Mann, ein Gendarmerieoffizier mit ungarischem Namen bei mir gewesen. Und das könnte er sein. Und so habe ich getippt, dass es dieser Söldi gewesen sein mag. Das sind meine einzigen Erinnerungen, die ich gehabt habe und habe.
No, I only remember him wearing the uniform of captain of the Hungarian gendarmerie. I had seen him all in all perhaps once or twice when he called at my office. When I was asked about him, this name was not familiar, but only later on I remembered vaguely that a man bearing this name had come to my office wearing the uniform of the Hungarian gendarmerie, and this is how I identified him. These are the vague memories with regard to his person.
Abromite was also among the commanders of a certain collection camp for Jews.
Ich sagte, wenn Abromite in Ungarn gewesen ist, was ich nicht in Abrede stellen will, dessen ich mich aber nicht entsinne, so ist es sehr wahrscheinlich, denn es war ein Mann gewesen, der Außendienst gewöhnt gewesen ist und nicht Bürodienst, dass er draußen gewesen ist. Aber es waren keine Kommandeure gewesen.
I have already said that if Abromite was there at all, and I do not want to deny this fact, though I don't remember it personally, it is quite possible, because he was a man used to all sorts of field missions and not used to desk work in the office. But these were not commanders.
Look, there's a document here, T1162, according to which Abromite belonged to the headquarters of the collection camp at Dochmania. Do you remember that? He was one of your men, you should remember it.
Wenn das jetzt drin steht, so ist es klar, dass Abromite draußen gewesen ist. Ich habe auch nicht die Unwahrheit gesagt, nur wusste ich es nicht. Ob der Ort stimmt oder nicht, weiß ich nicht, ich kenne ihn nicht. Und wenn er der Kommandantur angehört hat, so heißt das nicht, dass er Kommandeur gewesen ist, sondern dass er als... Ich glaube, das ist nicht als Lagerkommandantur aufzufassen, sondern das ist die Kommandantur der ungarischen Gendarmerie, die die Deportation durchgeführt hat. Und nachdem er nun in diesem Gebiet amtswalten musste, nämlich die Juden ausländischer Staatsangehörige auszusuchen, hat er selbstverständlich dem Kommandostab angehört.
President of Court, well, now we see that the answer should have been yes, so let's put it briefly.
If it is written this way, so it is quite clear that Abromite had been there. I didn't try to misrepresent this fact. I simply didn't know about it. I do not know whether the name of the place is accurate. I don't think he was a commander.
I did not ask you whether he was the commander, but whether he belonged to the headquarters.
If it is said in the document that he had been appointed by the by the headquarters, it doesn't mean to say that he was a commander. This was not a camp command, but this was the outpost of the Hungarian gendarmerie that carried out deportations. And as had been detailed to this, then say for the deportation of foreign nationality Jews, he was doing it in this framework.
Mr. Hausner, and similar jobs to that of Abromite were also carried out by other people posted in the field.
Yes, sir.
You yourself visited the ghettos. We've heard testimony from Sapir here, for instance, that you visited Munkac.
Ich habe kein Lager besichtigt. Ich war auf einer Karpatenfahrt, auf einer Bärenjagd, habe aber keinerlei dienstliche Obliegenheiten wahrgenommen. Ich habe nie ein Lager besucht.
I had never inspected camps. I toured the Carpathians, but I had not carried out any official duties.
I was on a bear hunt. I
was in the Carpathians indulging in a bear hunt, but this was certainly not an official tour.
Well, I think it was quite a different kind of a hunt, but never mind. But we've heard testimony here from Sapir that you visited the ghetto of Munkac. Do you wish to contradict that testimony?
Ich war in keinem Ghetto Munkac gewesen. Ich habe überhaupt kein Lager besucht, weder Lager noch Ghetto in Ungarn.
אם כך נטען, הרי צריך הדבר להיות כוזב.
It cannot possibly be the case, and it cannot be true. I'd never been to Munkac. I'd never visited either a camp or a ghetto.
I don't remember that any question was put to the witness Sapir on your behalf. But if you have something to say about this now, let's hear it.
Ich habe eine Urkunde hier, es liegt hier eine Urkunde vor, wonach der ehemalige Staatssekretär Endre in irgendeinem Ort in den Karpaten gewesen ist. Ich fuhr mit dem Wagen von Endre in die Karpaten. Endre ging seinen dienstlichen Obliegenheiten nach. Ich blieb im Hotel während dieser Zeit, das weiß ich. Ich habe keine Ursache gehabt.
I want to know why, when Sapir testified here about your visit in the Munkac ghetto, you did not make any comments and no question was asked of that witness on your behalf.
Das weiß ich nicht. Ich habe nicht für jede Angelegenheit, die nicht stimmte, eine Notiz gemacht. Ich habe meinem Herrn Verteidiger verschiedene Notizen zukommen lassen, aber nicht für jede Angelegenheit, die ich als nicht richtig empfand.
There is a document here, and according to this document, we could see that the former State Secretary in the Carpathian district, Andre, had toured the Carpathians, and I really joined him in his trip, but he was actually carrying out his official duties while I simply accompanied him, and while he visited various places, I was staying in the hotel. To another question, the accused answers, I do not know. I didn't make notes in regard to every statement that I considered inaccurate. I did make certain notes and I submitted them to my attorney, but not in all cases.
Ferenczi was a liaison officer in contact with you, wasn't he?
Ferenczi war der Verbindungsoffizier der ungarischen Gendarmerie.
I want an answer, yes or no. What is it?
Yes, Ferenczi was a liaison officer between the Hungarian gendarmerie. After having been interrupted, Eichmann says yes.
He handed prisoners over to you, did he not?
Übergab mir keine Häftlinge, nein. Mir hat keine Häftlinge übergeben. Mag sein, den Befehlshaber der Sicherheitspolizei, aber mir nicht. Ich habe keine Häftlinge entgegenzunehmen gehabt. Ich hätte ja nicht gewusst, wo ich sie hinbringen soll. Dafür war ich nicht zuständig.
No, he hadn't handed over to me any prisoners. He couldn't have done so. He might have been handing them over to the commander of the security police. He couldn't have possibly handed them over to me because I wouldn't know where to send them because I was not authorized to do so.
And I tell you that there are official documents saying that he handed these people over to you. Mr. Hausner, to the President of the Court, Your Honor, I cannot let it rest with his denial. I want to get more details. My colleague tells me that it is in document T1169. President of Court, well, in the meantime, sir, could you carry on? we shall look for this document. Mr. Hausner, von Tadden was in Hungary, was he not?
Yes, this is correct.
And of all the people of the security police, he did not see Winkelmann, he did not see Gershke, he only met you, right?
Das weiß ich nicht. Ich habe jedenfalls in den Dokumenten nichts entnommen davon.
I do not know. At any rate, I couldn't have inferred this from the documents relating to his visits.
Mr. Hausner, all right. Well, maybe you can infer something from the document I'll show you now, where von Tadden inferred something definitely from the visit and reported about his visit, and out of all these security police people, he mentions only the name of Eichmann. He does not mention Gershke, neither does he mention Winkelmann, nor does he mention anyone else.
Oh ja, es wird noch ein gewisser Ballensiefen genannt. Vom Amt 7.
Yes, but another name is mentioned, a man named Ballensiefen from Office 7.
I see, Ballensiefen of Bureau 7, but from among the people who dealt in Jewish affairs?
Das habe ich gelesen, er war ja sogar mein Gast zum Mittag gewesen. Ballensiefen hat sich aber ebenfalls mit Juden befasst und er wird ja auch genannt hier drin. Also war ich es nicht alleine gewesen, den er besucht hat und aufgesucht hat.
I have read this. He was my guest at a luncheon, but also Ballensiefen was dealing with Jewish matters, so I was not the only one whom he had visited.
Can you tell me why von Tadden came to Hungary?
Ich denke, es wird eine reine Informationsreise gewesen sein. Denke ich weiß es nicht genau.
I take it this was a purely informational journey, some sort of a reconnaissance journey, as it were, for the collection of information. I do not know exactly, this is what I assume.
And the information about the deportation of Jews he received from you. All that was done and all that was being planned.
Was geschehen war, das ist möglich. Was geplant war, nicht, denn der Planer und Initiator war ja sein Chef gewesen, zu dem er sich in Ungarn zu begeben hatte, nämlich Fesemeyer.
Yes, he received the report on what was going on, but certainly not on what was being planned, because the planner and the initiator was his direct superior to whom he came, namely Wiesenmeyer.
Yes, but he happens to have reported that he only saw you, and he got the information only from you.
Einzelheiten, die ich wusste, hatte ich ja auch von Fesemeyer und von Winkelmann. Ich konnte es ja von niemand anderen haben.
The details which I knew had been also received from Wiesenmeyer. I couldn't have got it from anybody else.
Yes, that's what you are saying now, but Winkelmann in his testimony as your defense witness does not say that at all. Did you read Winkelmann's testimony?
Ich habe sie nicht ganz gelesen, ich habe nur einen Auszug gelesen.
Winkelmann says that your orders, insofar as you had to receive orders at all, you derived from Berlin, not from him. And this is a man who is your defense witness.
Ich habe die Befehle aus Berlin erhalten, soweit es sich um die transporttechnischen, fahrplanmäßigen Angelegenheiten handelt. Das ist klar.
No, not from him. You did not receive any orders from Winkelmann about the deportations. Although, in a formal sense, you may have been his subordinate in some way.
Berlin hat ja überhaupt nicht Bescheid gewusst um die Angelegenheiten in Ungarn bezüglich der Evakuierung und Deportation. Das hat ja Fesemeyer mit Winkelmann bei der ungarischen Regierung behandelt. Das besagen ja die Urkunden alle. Also kann Berlin nicht Bescheid gewusst haben. Ich habe ja nicht mehr verhandelt.
Just a moment. Winkelmann testifies that you did not receive any orders from him and that you were subordinated to Berlin. Is that truth or falsehood? And be careful because this is your defense witness.
Trotzdem muss ich sagen, dass ich dem Befehlshaber der Sicherheitspolizei des SD unterstellt gewesen bin. Und wo es einen...
This is not the reply. I want to know from whom did you in fact receive your orders. Leave these formalities alone once. Don't tell me unterstellt, subordinated. I want to know how it was in point of fact, how it was carried out. So what Winkelmann says is false.
Es ist nicht ganz richtig, was er gesagt hat, das stimmt. Denn ich bezog die Befehle bezüglich der Evakuierung von Wien und bezüglich der transporttechnischen Angelegenheiten bezog ich sie von Berlin. Die Befehle bezüglich der Evakuierung, hier handelte es sich um die Zahlen, die ich von ihm bekam und von Geschke. Und diese Zahlen waren die Grundlage ja gewesen für die Fahrplanerstellung.
Okay, we've heard this before, we've heard this. President of Court, I would very much like to complete this session in the presence of the audience, and I do not wish to have to repeat my warning.
I hadn't read the testimony in full, only extracts from it. I had received orders from Berlin in transport matters and with regard to the preparation of timetables. And to the question whether he had or had not received orders from Winkelmann, the answer was Berlin didn't know details about evacuation. This was arranged by Wesemeyer and Winkelmann in consultation with the Hungarian government. And in accordance with relevant documents, Berlin couldn't have even known about it at all. And an answer to an additional question. In spite of all this, I have to point out that I was subordinated to the commander of SD and secret police. I had received orders from Berlin and from the superior commander of SS in Hungary. It is not quite true what Winkelmann is saying. It is true that I received orders from Berlin, but only on transport matters. But certainly not with regard to evacuation. This I had received, these orders I had received from him, let me say from Winkelmann and from Geschke. This should have constituted the basis for the preparation of train departure charts.
Among those who were with you, there were people who were experts in anti-Jewish legislations and other anti-Jewish measures all over Europe, within the Reich and outside, Hunsche, Wisliceni, and others. Correct?
Hunsche gehörte gerade nicht dazu, aber andere jawohl.
Hunsche couldn't be listed among the latter, but so far as others were concerned, I must answer in the affirmative.
Well, I thought that once you said that Hunsche dealt with juridical and juristic matters. All right, if you want to exonerate him of that, fine. But the others? I assume that this particular SD man who cooperated in the anti-Jewish legislation in Hungary, as mentioned in document T1184, was one of these people. Perhaps you can identify him.
Ich darf zuvor nur noch meine Aussage von vorhin ergänzen. Sie fragten mich, Herr Generalstaatsanwalt, die in den Ländern verschiedene Praktiken sich aneigneten. Darunter, sagte ich, zählt Hunsche nicht, denn Hunsche ist mir nicht bekannt, dass er in den Ländern tätig gewesen ist. Also an Ort und Stelle, wie Wislicenny zum Beispiel.
I asked you both about the Reich and the Länder, but never mind. In any event, you had with you all the people who had become experts in this work all over Europe, so I must assume that in Hungary too, the man who is mentioned in this document must have been one of these people, and perhaps you could tell us who it was.
May I complete my testimony? You'd asked me, Mr. Attorney General, about the people who had already been active in various anti-Jewish legislation activities. I said that Bunche couldn't be listed among them because it is not known to me whether he was acting also in the Ländern.
Here is where the Attorney General put his previous question.
These matters could apply to Wunsch as to the legislator of SD and S.
Who was the legal expert attached to the commander of the security police and the SD in Hungary, if such a person ever existed?
Existiert und sicherlich bei der Abteilung 2 des BDS in Ungarn, wie bei jedem Befehlshaber. Es hat ja jeder Befehlshaber seinen juristischen Apparat gehabt.
I do not know exactly, but there were a number of jurists, and they belong to Department 2 of the commander of the security police. Every commander had an apparatus of his own jurists.
But you will agree with me that with you in that group of yours, there were people who had been doing this work for years in the Reich proper and in all the occupied countries. And if such an advisor was required, then Wislicenny, Bunche, Abromeit, or one of these people would have been eminently suited.
Ich denke nur so, dass es zumindest ein Jurist gewesen sein muss. Ein Assessor oder Regierungsrat jedenfalls. Deswegen sagte ich, dass es sowohl möglich ist, möchte ich durchaus nicht abstreiten, sowohl möglich ist, dass es Hunsche war, es ist aber ebenso gut möglich, dass es der Jurist oder die Juristen vom Befehlshaber gewesen sind.
I understand that there should have been a jurist, either assessor or Regierungsrat, but at any rate a jurist. And therefore I pointed out already that it could have been Wunsch, I do not want to deny this possibility, or jurists detailed by the commander of the security police and SD.
Could you tell me why, when you were in Hungary, you concerned yourself with the case of Gysi Fleischmann?
Ist mir überhaupt kein Begriff, Gysi Fleischmann. Die slowakische Angelegenheit. Okay. Da habe ich mich doch in Ungarn nicht mit beschäftigt. Das ist mir neu. Der Name Fleischmann ist mir zwar sehr bekannt, den habe ich ja, der ist ja hier sogar gerade gefallen, okay. Auch Wislicenny nennt ihn, aber ich habe mich mit Fleischmann nicht beschäftigt in Ungarn.
Fleischmann, I hear it for the first time. I don't know this person from Adam. Oh yes, I see, the Slovakian affair. But,
yes, it is.
But I didn't deal with this matter in Hungary. Yes, of course, this name sounds quite familiar to me. Even here the name had been mentioned several times.
That is right,
Also, Wislicenny mentions this name, but I didn't deal with it in Hungary.
Well, let us try to recall the matter. There was an instruction to send her to Auschwitz, and you were asked to revoke that order.
Eine solche Weisung wurde von mir nie erteilt.
Such instruction had never been issued by me.
I don't say that you gave the order. I say that an order was given to deport her from Slovakia to Auschwitz, and that you were asked to intervene in order to get the order revoked. Do you remember this?
Entsinne ich mich nicht, aber ich habe keine Möglichkeit gehabt, einer allfälligen Intervention von einem anderen Land irgendwie auch nur zu behandeln, zur Zeit, als ich in Ungarn war. Da ist ja 4B4 im Referat in Berlin zuständig gewesen, beziehungsweise irgendeine andere Stelle, die das dann dem Amtschef vorgetragen haben hätte müssen. Ich habe keine Möglichkeiten dieser Art gehabt.
And you were not even in the position to recommend something or to request something. You told us before that you came to Auschwitz to ask for easier work for Storfer, that you applied to Müller, that Müller would apply to Glix in turn, so that you could note in the Auschwitz register that Storfer should take a broom and sweep the gravel paths in Auschwitz. So don't tell me that you could not intervene in the case of Gysi Fleischmann.
Wenn man das an mich herangetragen hätte, vielleicht, je nachdem, aber man hat es ja nicht an mich herangetragen. Ich habe in Ungarn keine Ahnung gehabt von einem Fall Fleischmann.
I had no possibility whatsoever of intervening in matters of another country. After all, 4B4 couldn't deal with problems transcending the boundaries of one particular country when a representative was sent there, and therefore I had no possibility of interfering.
Here's where the Attorney General asked the question about Storfer.
If a matter had been sent to me, then I would have been able perhaps to do so, but I hadn't heard about the name Fleischmann at all at that time.
And everything that was reported here, how they applied to you and you promised that the deportation order would be revoked, all of this is false.
I had no knowledge whatsoever about the Fleischmann affair.
Welche Deportationsorder, wenn ich fragen darf?
What kind of deportation order, may I ask?
Annullieren können, noch in Ungarn.
I had no right whatsoever to revoke deportation order in Slovakia and not even in Hungary.
The matter is this. Gysi Fleischmann, about Gysi Fleischmann, there was an order to have her deported to Auschwitz, and you were asked to intervene, and you promised you would intervene. You even showed a cable alleging, which you allegedly had sent, an intervention against her deportation to Auschwitz. And you mean to say all of this is false?
Ich kann mich jedenfalls nicht eines Details dieser Angelegenheit entsinnen.
I can't remember at any rate a single detail of this particular incident.
Den Fall Fleischmann. Es wäre bestimmt nicht es wäre ja immerhin keine schlechte Angelegenheit. Ich trotzdem sagen, ich kann mich nicht an eine Phase dieser Angelegenheit entsinnen. Und deswegen muss ich sagen, ich war ja auch nicht zuständig gewesen. Die sachliche Möglichkeit will mir auch gar nicht eingehen.
At any rate, even if it was to be stated that I had intervened in favor of Fleischmann, then it wouldn't be incriminating at all so far as my case is concerned. But at any rate, I have to say that I do not remember any single phase of this particular incident, and I was not authorized to revoke any order of this kind. I had no competence or jurisdiction to do so.
Perhaps I shall convince you by recalling your next step at the time, that immediately after you had promised to intervene, what you did was to send orders that she should be deported to Auschwitz, and you sent a card bearing the initials RE, return RU, return undesirable.
Kein Wort davon ist wahr.
Not a single word of it is true.
Did your permanent deputy, Günther, receive an official nomination as head of Department 4B4 when you were transferred to Hungary?
Das weiß ich nicht. Er führte jedenfalls das Referat und ich war von den Referatsaufgaben offiziell entbunden.
I do not know. At any rate, he was conducting the department officially, and I'd been officially released from my duties in the department.
He managed the department, as he always did in your absence, as permanent deputy, without a specific letter of appointment, right?
Das weiß ich nicht. Günther ist ja zum Schluss überhaupt Referent 4B4 gewesen. Er ist der Judenreferent gewesen, genau wie es einen Kirchenreferenten gegeben hat. Ich war...
This was not the question. The question was whether he had been officially appointed for the functions you had been filling prior to your departure to Hungary.
Das muss ich auf jeden Fall annehmen, denn das Referat kann nicht verwaist sein. Ich wurde offiziell entbunden der Referatstätigkeit und ich entnehme es auch einem Dokument, wo ich von Günther angewiesen werde. Also muss er bestallter Referent gewesen sein. Denn ich wäre ja in Ungarn angewiesen von ihm. Ja. Wäre ich sein Vorgesetzter noch gewesen, hätte er mich ja nicht anweisen können. Deswegen muss ich annehmen, dass die Referentenbestellung von Günther eine bestallte gewesen ist.
I do not know. Günther, after all, was head of the section B4. He was the Juden referent, expert in Jewish matters. As there were also other department heads, for instance, department head for the question of the clergy.
So I am to assume that there was a head of the department because the department could not have been left without a chief.
At any rate, I infer it from a relevant document that I had received a special instruction from Günther. I assume that he had been officially appointed as my successor, otherwise he wouldn't be able to send instructions to me. Therefore, I assume that he had been given the official appointment you referred to, Your Honor.
However, you told the court that when you learned about Becher's activity in regard to Jewish immigration, you were indignant. Because you are the man for immigration, and here another man is the man to carry it out, in fact.
Im Prinzip ist das richtig. Es reißt mir niemand aus der Hand, sondern ich habe einen Zorn bekommen, dass Auswanderung, die verboten gewesen ist die ganze Zeit, jetzt von einem völlig polizeifernen Menschen gemacht wird, ich aber in Deportation mit tun soll. Das ist mir nicht eingegangen und da packte mich der Zorn und da habe ich dann zu einer solchen Lösung dann endlich gefunden.
As a matter of principle, it is quite correct, sir. Nobody had arrested anything from me, anybody tore anything away from me, but I was indignant in the fact that the immigration, which was banned all the time, was transferred to somebody who had no experience whatsoever in this matter, whereas I was to deal with deportations. This is what made me so angry and wrathful.
You will agree with me that at the time, this was for 3 years, you did not deal with immigration, you dealt only with deportation and rejected and refused every one individual request for immigration.
Ich musste das tun, weil die Befehle mir das entsprechend besagten.
All right, but for 3 whole years you did not deal with immigration.
In accordance with orders.
Good, jawohl is good enough. And then the man who never dares make forward a proposition in connection with the forwarding of a parcel to the government general area, or to send some help to a Jew in occupied France, you all of a sudden hit upon a great idea. Is that what you try to tell the court?
Jawohl, das will ich auch begründen, denn
yes, I can even explain it.
No, you do not yet understand the aim and the duty of this cross-examination. I tried to explain to you. You are to answer questions without explanations unless it is absolutely necessary for the understanding of the answer itself.
Ich dachte nur, damit kein falsches Bild entsteht, deswegen wollte ich das eben begründen, aber wenn es nicht erlaubt ist, dann bitte nicht.
I simply wanted to depict the situation as it was so that it shouldn't be distorted in any way, but if I'm not allowed to explain it, then I shall refrain from these explanations.
President of Court, go ahead please, although I do not believe the picture would be distorted. Go ahead.
Es ist ganz klar, wenn man die Sache so bedenkt, dass es merkwürdig ist, wieso ich auf einmal hier in diese Kerbe dann reinhaue. Aber wenn man bedenkt, dass dieser Mann, der infolge eines Sonderauftrages nun in Auswanderung machen kann, mir auf der anderen Seite aber am Fell liegt und mich drängelt und triezt und hier als polizeiferner Mensch sich anmaßt, mir gewissermaßen Termine zu stellen, die ich sowieso nicht anordnen und befehlen kann, dann muss einen eben die Wut packen und das ist der Grund gewesen, warum ich gegen diese Sache Stellung genommen habe. Und so wurde das geboren.
Okay.
President of Court, this is exactly what you said in the examination in chief.
It is crystal clear, after all, that when intervention is made here, that I should be indignant. This man who had been given a special assignment would come and poke his nose into my affairs, and he would give me certain conditions which I couldn't even fulfill. Of course, this had fanned my wrath, and therefore I had taken a definite stand, and this is how this matter had been born.
But why the indignation? You were given an order. Is this what raised indignation in your heart?
Nein, wenn meine Vorgesetzten mir befahlen, ich muss diese transporttechnischen Angelegenheiten durchführen, das ist klar, da musste ich gehorchen. Wenn aber ein Nicht-Polizeiangehöriger sich anmaßt, mir Befehle erteilen zu wollen in Deportationsangelegenheiten, er aber in Auswanderung macht, so...
This is most annoying, is it not?
Had I been given these orders by my superiors, then of course I would have had to implement these orders up to the hilt. But if a man who is not appointed by the police comes to me and gives me all sorts of orders, he himself is dealing with immigration, whereas I'm supposed to deal with deportations, then it is quite obvious that this matter must fill my heart with indignation.
And then you hit upon the idea to propose 1 million Jews instead of 1,000. This is your idea. Yes?
Ja, die 100.000 respektive als 10% und dann die Million. Das ist eine Sache, die hat sich nun mal zugetragen und lässt sich ja nun nicht aus der Welt diskutieren.
You mean to say that this was your idea?
Yes, 100,000, that means say 10% as first installment and afterwards 1 million. This is a matter that had taken place, and it's quite impossible to argue about it. At any rate, nobody else had begotten this idea.
Remember that during your conversations with Zassen, this was discussed at length. Whole passages were read to you from Yoel Brand's book. You were requested to comment. Many conversations dealt with this business. Correct?
Ich habe es nicht nachgelesen, aber es ist wohl denkbar, jawohl.
I didn't continue perusing it, but this is quite plausible.
Yes, and I will read to you what you told Zassen. One sentence only, for the time being. A thing like that, with 10,000 trucks, in exchange for 1 million Jews, I could not once upon a time even bring up to my lips. This is what you told Zassen.
Das kann nicht richtig sein. Es ist ja sehr viel geschrieben worden, wie Sie sagen, Herr Generalstaatsanwalt, und da muss wahrscheinlich dann das andere geschrieben worden sein.
עניין כזה המובאה, כן? עניין כזה עם 10,000 משאיות בטוחות בחורף.
The trucks are to be winterproof.
עניין כזה לא יכולתי הלא להביא כלל בחשבון ביחידתי.
In my unit, this exchange was out of question, and I could not have advised it at the time, and this you must know. And then in reply to a question by Mr. Hausner, Judge Halevi, correction to the interpreter, I would never have thought of this idea. You said that many things were written, Mr. Hausner, and these are one of those things. Mr. Hausner, I will now show you a page wherein you can also identify your corrections.
Das angestrichene?
המודגש.
The lines which are underlined here?
There are corrections in your handwriting on that page, correct?
Jawohl, es gibt einige wenige.
Yes, there are a few corrections.
Please read the passage from Folgendes habe ich zu sagen until nicht Jude. This all concerns the transaction.
Also mit anderen Worten, wir hatten sie lieber umgebracht. Bitte?
No, not this passage.
במילים אחרות איפה?
In other words, therefore,
wir hatten sie lieber umgebracht, Fragezeichen. Ich weiß nicht, wer das fragt mich wahrscheinlich jemand.
Aber da ist Ihre Antwort jetzt. Folgendes habe ich zu sagen.
Folgendes habe ich zu sagen. Mit meinem Herzen bin ich bei gar keinem Gegner gewesen. Wenn ich mit meinem Herzen dabei gewesen wäre, dann hätte ich jeden einzelnen Reichsgegner lieber tot als lebendig gesehen. Denn nur ein toter Reichsgegner ist gut. Im Besonderen habe ich dazu zu sagen, wenn ich einen Befehl bekommen habe, so habe ich beim Henker diesen Befehl stets ausgeführt. Darauf bin ich auch heute noch stolz. Denn ich habe meinen Eid erfüllt und mehr habe ich dazu nicht zu sagen. Erinnern Sie sich an irgendwelche Gespräche oder Äußerungen, woraus gefolgert werden konnte, dass Ihnen dieser Handel eben widerlich war? Nein. Nein, warum sollte er mir widerlich gewesen sein? Ein jeder Mensch hatte, nicht lesbar, die Korrektur,
in dieser Zeit
einen besten Freund gehabt und dieser Freund war für mich
Zehnter
gewesen,
dort, ja?
Von der 22. SS-Kavalleriedivision. Ich wusste, wie dieser Mann schnaufte und sein Bestes tat, um seine paar Quadratkilometer zu verteidigen. Ich erzählte, wie ich ihm die Granaten besorgte, wie ich mit ihm Geburtstag gefeiert habe. Ich erzählte, wie wir uns als kleine Führer haben kennengelernt, wo ich ihm helfen konnte, wenn er mit seiner Division, die so stiefmütterlich behandelt war, wahrscheinlich wegen materiellem Unvermögen, wie ich ihm half. Glauben Sie, dass, wenn ich einen solchen Befehl hatte vom Reichsführer, motorisieren Sie die 22. und 8. 10.000 LKW gegen, da soll doch die Million Juden hingehen, wo der Pfeffer wächst. Hauptsache ist, ich kann davon 5.000 LKW meinem Freund geben für seine Division. Mein Herz habe ich nie gefragt und habe auch gar nicht zu fragen gehabt. Deutschland habe ich zu fragen gehabt, aber nicht mein Herz, was an sich dasselbe ist. Können Sie mir sagen, wie die Einstellung Müllers gegen diesen Handel war? Genauso kalt wie meine. Wenn wir dafür eine Zahl X Reichsfeinde gegen militärische Vorteile eintauschen können, ist jeder Handel gerade recht, um durchgeführt zu werden. Und ich bin davon überzeugt, wir hätten ihnen gegen diese 10.000 LKW auch zur Not 2 Millionen gegeben. Und dann hätte ich rausgehandelt, was rauszuhandeln gewesen wäre. Das ist wieder ein Beweis dafür, dass die Juden ja nicht verheizt waren, dass sie ja da gewesen sind. Sie ahnen ja nicht, was man beiderseits aus dieser Quelle gezogen hätte, Jude oder nicht Jude.
Haben Sie das gesagt?
In dieser Form weiß ich das nicht. Jedenfalls schon der eine Satz, der vorhin verlesen worden ist, straft vieles dieser Sachen Lügen, denn man sieht ja, dass es hier ein Zeuge Brandt, ein Anklagezeuge, bestätigt hat, was ich gesagt habe.
Sagen Sie mir, ob Sie das gesagt haben, ja oder nein? Oder
in dieser Form, ich weiß nicht, ob das in dieser Form aufgenommen worden ist oder ob das retuschiert wurde. Das entzieht sich meiner Kenntnis.
Nicht mehr wie retuschiert jedenfalls.
Unter retuschiert verstehe ich, dass es sowohl abgehört wurde, wie falsch diktiert wurde, wie eventuell auch journalistisch bearbeitet wurde.
Aber Sie haben es selbst korrigiert, die ganze Seite.
Ich habe es nicht unterschrieben und nicht verabschiedet, es ist kein Fahnenabzug dabei.
Kein Fahnen.
אוכל לשמוע את השאלה הראשונה שלנו במסמך.
מר האוזנר, אדוני ייתן לו מפני
השאלה הראשונה, לא הייתה.
שבכיס הזה חסרה השאלה הראשונה.
כן.
במילים אחרות, in
other words, this is where the quotation starts.
לפני המסגרת האדומה.
ובכן, במילים אחרות,
In other words,
יותר טוב היינו הורגים אותם.
It would be perhaps better if they were killed. I don't know who asked whether it would be better if those Jews were killed or not. I have to say to this question the following. My heart was not at all involved in this matter, because had my heart been involved, then I would certainly prefer to see every adversary of the Reich dead rather than alive, because a good enemy is only a dead enemy. I have to point out in particular that when I received an order, I knew I had to carry it out up to the hilt, and up to this very day I'm extremely proud of it that I hadn't broken my oath of loyalty and allegiance to the flag. I had always been faithful to my oath, and I cannot add anything thereto.
Did you say that? Are these the words you said?
כן, השאלה. הזוכר אתה אילו שיחות או ביטויים מהן אפשר היה להסיק כי עסקה זו הבחילה אותך?
Do you remember any expressions, special expressions which pointed to the fact that you did not give a hand to this transaction?
No, after all, everyone in this period had his best friend, and this best friend, so far as I was concerned, was Samenter of the Mounted Division of the SS. I knew how he was endeavoring to overcome his difficulties in order to defend the number of square miles he was still holding sway of. And I helped him to get the grenades he needed. I also pointed out how we were celebrating our respective birthdays together. At any rate, if I could only help him, I was doing my level best to do so. And when he stumbled on difficulties in his division that was treated as a stepchild, as it were, perhaps due to financial difficulties, I helped him to the best of my knowledge, and I was not stinting efforts to aid him. And obviously, when I had such orders from the Reichswehr to motorize the 22nd and the 8th Division, that means to say to secure 10,000 trucks. So I thought, let the million Jews go wherever they like. Let them go to hell as far as I was concerned. If I could give 10,000 trucks to my friend for his division, I did it readily. Of course, I never asked my heart. I didn't have to ask my heart. I would have to ask Germany, and that was actually the same, because Germany, as a notion, was identical with my feelings and my heart. Could you tell me what was Miller's attitude to this problem? Miller had to be as tough as myself in this question, devoid of any personal feeling. If we could in any way exchange any number of the Reich's enemies against military advantages, then of course we had to decide in favor of the military advantages, and we knew that we had to do everything we could in order to carry out this mission. We knew that we would be, I know full well that we would be even able and ready to give them 2 million Jews for these trucks. I was trying to make the best of this transaction. This again is an additional proof that not all the Jews had been burned at that time, because they were still there. They were subjected to this particular transaction. Not all the Jews had been burned in crematories. You cannot realize what advantages could have been derived here.
Did you say these words?
I didn't express myself in this form. I understand the passage which was read here shows that there are all sorts of shortcomings. Brandt himself said, and here the accused was interrupted. In this form, I do not think I had said it. I don't know how it had been changed. I think there were some slight amendments brought to it.
You mean only retouched?
Oh, I understand that perhaps certain things were overlooked.